All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Black Desert video. Today, I wanted to make an update on one of my older guide videos of best spots to grind for silver, and I think this is a popular one that I've done, and also I think it's a good time to update it because they added a lot of new spots recently into the game, in the Ulukita area, like Ndekia and everything. And also, they made some tweaks to various other spots over the past, 6 months or whenever I made the video last. So, I also needed some time to actually grind and test these spots once again, whether it's from a beginner's perspective, as in, seasonal, all the way to endgame spots. So, my experience with grinding them is probably a little bit different from others, but I try to make sure I at least know what I'm doing. And you guys can look at Garmoth and other resources to tell you what averages people get at various spots and stuff. So anyway, I'm just going to talk about this from my experience and talk about things that I think were updated and is it worth it. Some places that were good from the last video might not be good anymore just because of various changes. We'll talk about that. But anyway, here's how we're going to do it. We look at the monster zone info and then we look at it from AP order. I think this just makes the most sense. And then we'll have timestamps in the description. So whatever AP you're at, we'll try. You just skip to whatever you're interested in. So I'll talk about this from both the beginner perspective, as in you just started the game, you're in seasonals all the way to mid game and end game. And I'll tell you what I think is important. And also, they made a new change recently where you can click this button for total stats and you can basically see max AP limit. So before we get into it, let me teach you how this works and explain it. So if you look at this normally, for example, this Rudum outstation spot, it says recommended AP is 50, DP is 130, right? So what that means is when you see 50 and 130, you would look at your AP stats from your sheet and gear sheet. Now, when it says view total stats of max AP at 130, this means all your stats combined when you're full buffed and everything. So how would you figure that out? Is you look at your stats over here. And so you see how I have my AP and everything right here, including, so let me show you real quick. So this is 326 plus the 205 in the bracket, right? So that's where you probably get the number that you have for your AP and Awakening right here. And then you get extra AP against monsters from food buffs, your jewelry, whatever buffs, food, whatever else, elixirs, and also your artifacts and crystals. So how does this work? You take your number right here, whether you're Awakening or Succession, you take this number, add the AP from your extra monster number over here, and then you take the extras from the species damage at the end. So you combine all those numbers and then you get this number right here. And then obviously the higher end spots have a bigger number. So that's how you read it in a nutshell. All right, so in terms of grind spots, I want to talk about things starting around probably 180. And the reason why is because I think this is a very easy to obtain thing as a new player. Even if you are, let's say this is your first week playing the game, you just do the quest or just follow the quest line. You enhance your Naru gear, make Tuvala gear, and I think getting to 200 is something you can do in a week without grinding too much. You just follow the quest line and then do your season reward thingies, and then you don't even need to really worry about half of these spots. Mostly they're outdated, to be honest. So yeah, I think 180 is a good spot to actually consider grinding other spots because we're talking about silver. So I've made other videos in the past of best spots to grind for XP, Agris. Silver, of course, is probably the most popular one because this is the currency of this game. So in this video, I want to talk more about silver, and maybe in the future we'll update the XP and then Agris and all the other good stuff. So the reason why we're starting at 180 is because this one is better than it was before. So first of all, The AP here is like 180, 210. So if you're too lazy to actually look at what all these numbers mean and you don't want to calculate everything, just look at your AP here, 180, 210. Is this number higher than this? If your AP is higher than that number, you're good to go. All right, so the reason why Blood Wolves is good is, one, you're going for the infinite potions if you want to go get those yourself. I do think that infinite potions nowadays are more mandatory than optional before. And I think the health one is one that everyone should get at some point, sooner than later. So that's just one reason to be here. This is one of the 3 pieces for the HP pot. Plus, the Cagdanacs are actually worth a lot more now than they were before. So what they do is make the Dark Red Fang Valor crystals. And so let me just show you. Dark Red Fang Valor. So these things are like, let's just say 400 mil each. And then if you get the Cagdanac plus the thing to create it, it's basically like saving 400 mil from buying it if you use it yourself. Or if you do decide to sell it, plus the other materials, it's probably about like 300 mil after tax and all that stuff. But I would recommend at least try to keep them, because even at endgame, you do actually use these crystals. And yeah, like I do unironically still use Valor crystals. So that's why I think it's a good one for entry as well. And let's go back into Blood Wolves. Everything else, the drop rate is not that great. Garmoth scales are like at an all-time high. I'm not really 100% sure why. I guess these spots are just not as grinded as they were before. But you're here mostly for Cagdanats and the infinite potion piece. So it's pretty good silver, actually, if you're in the area and at that AP. Centaurs. Everyone knows that Centaurs is a very solid grind spot. I do think it's one of the easier grind spots for newer players to grind that gives a lot of silver. Admittedly, you do have to use Agris for it, which is this thingy right here. And you have to, like, ideally max it out for the extra drop amount and stuff. So, basically, this gives a lot of silver just because the trash loot is kind of worth a lot. And so at a 180 AP area, this thing or this place is very solid, and everything else is just like a bonus, but you're mostly making a bunch here. And I think the rotation that's not the Marnie Realm, but the one above the Marnie Realm spot that's like an oval, I think that's the place where people do a lot. I'm not sure about the Marnie Realm, but I know the one above it is decent. Shuriken Necropolis. This one is a spot for the infinite HP potion as well, and these are the pity pieces. I do think that Shuriken is pretty decent. It's not the best, but if you're gonna grind here for the HP pot, the trash loot is pretty decent. You get a lot, so you're probably gonna have to have a decent amount of weight or know how to horse stack and everything. So yeah, I think it's pretty solid. There's a night mechanic as well, where if you're using energy, you can have a higher chance of getting the ancient piece itself, like the full 100. And so daytime is just pretty decent silver. Nighttime is more for the piece in general. Miramok. Admittedly, this place is more for XP than silver, but at a 190 area, like the silver you make along with the XP you get makes it a solid spot. I've seen people do it in parties of 2 all the way to 5 back in the day, and everyone would get their own rotation. And then, like, you know that when you're in a group, it has that like Wi-Fi bar to see if you're in range of other people, and then you guys get XP. It's kind of wild. I don't think anyone does that anymore, but it's still pretty decent from the level perspective that like you can still be there. So 190 Forest Renaros. Admittedly, I think this place is something that people say they hate the most. And I've grinded out 2 infinite potion pieces, 1 straight ancient piece, and then 100 pities for the second one. And it's probably around like 400 to 500 mil an hour if you were to sell everything. But the reason why you're here is mostly for the infinite HP piece in general. So like it's not the worst, but if you're gonna grind here, I mean, you'll still feel like you made something at the end of the day. Next we have Monchums at 190. This spot kind of fell off, and I remember talking about this in the old video that I made where I said this was a decent spot. However, recently they came out with the second Old Moon accessory thing where you can get basically a pen, Crescent or Narc and everything, which made people sell their originals, and the original base price of these dropped. And so this spot isn't as good as it was before. So just keep that in mind. And if you're going here for the infinite mana potion, that's really the only reason to be back. Let's see, other spots. Now, keep in mind, some of these spots right here are still grinded for more specific things, like the archaeologist map in general. So if you are one of those people thinking about you grinding the archaeologist map, I would kind of wait until the Dekia version comes out and then just grind it then, because now it just doesn't really feel like a good amount of silver, and it's kind of like an outdated spot. So yeah, like they recently added Dekia, Akhman, and Histria, so you never know, this could be next in the future. So yeah, it's one of those things that it's still grinded, it's just you're there for a specific piece in general. I think you make like less than 500 mil an hour at these spots. It's not great, and it's all the way out in the middle of the desert, so it's whatever. 200 Sakraya upper. I think if you're here in the upper area, you're here for the rich merchant ring piece, which is an endgame item anyway. So if you're a new player and you see this, it's not really worth it for you. If you're here, you have to be there for a specific reason. All right, let's go into the 210, 220 plus into the Elvia area. And I personally think that if you are going to grind in Elvia, you're going to be grinding for the shards, like these Shard of Tearful Knight, the Drain Knight, and the Furious Knight. They're used to make your accessory cups, like these things. You know how there's accessory ones that are like clouded, or the blue and yellow, basically, right? And I do think it is something that people should grind out early on, just because they are good upgrades. But some of these spots are not really the greatest silver, but they give a lot of these, which if you were to factor in the cost of them, if you were to look at various cut prices, this is what they look like. So basically blue is like the defensive, yellow is more offensive, and then this one's for earrings. There's only one option. So I have an entirely new video, or not new, but like I have a video talking about which ones should you get and which ones I think are important. So I'll leave a link in the description to that one if you're curious to know which ones would work for you. There's no right or wrong answer, by the way. It's just what fits your playstyle kind of thing. And so you do factor in the cost of those if you are grinding. But let me see, where were we? Altar Imps. I personally don't like this spot. We'll talk about the other one, another place to get the Tearful Knights if you're interested. Brigadi Den. You get a lot more of these shards, but you get less silver in terms of, like, you know, trash loot and everything. So if you're only there for the shards of Drain Knights, it's probably better for the yellow ones, but you get less silver. Just keep that in mind. Castle Ruins, admittedly, I don't have too much experience here. I have a few hours, but it's a party grind spot, and it's straight up worse than Orcs, but the AP requirement's a little bit lower. All right, so Thornwood Forest. This spot is actually hard to describe in terms of amount of silver. The Dekia version is at probably in the top 3 in most silver made, but like when you talk about Dekia, it's this one, but that's also an endgame spot. So for regular Thornwood, what positive things I can say for this one is this has probably the highest drop rate for Spectre's energies outside of Tungrad Ruins and like the Ulakita areas, which are endgame spots. So if you're like in the mid mid tier of the gaming. I don't know what is it called, mid gaming past Tuvala and Spectre's energies if you need them. Thornwood is the place to go. I think ominous rings drop pretty frequently at regular Thornwood, like maybe 1 and 2 an hour, maybe 1 an hour. Either way, it's pretty decent. But you do get a lot of Capra stones and all that stuff. The leaves and the lung, they have probably one of the lowest drop rates. And if you are looking for the Orzeka pieces, I'll talk about that as we get into the different spots and what are the best spots to grind for all of these. So Orzeka, the left and right lung make the Orzeka thing. You get a title and a new costume. Very cool, right? So Thornwood, I think it's just okay. Like the regular one is. Dekia is kind of amazing, actually. So Histria and Akhman. I think Histria is probably the spot that I have the most hours in out of every single grind spot in this game. Probably around like 400 hours in this spot, going for my compass piece and the treasure one. So I know Histria like the back of my hand, and I know every grind spot. Chances are, if you are on regular Histria, you're there for the Elton piece. I would say this spot is pretty decent with Agris as well. And in 1 hour, you use roughly around 20,000 Agris. You make... It kind of ranges between like 600 mil to like over $1 billion an hour, depending on, I guess, accessory drops plus the amount of Capris and scrolls you get. But they actually buffed this spot like 6 months ago. So the trash loot used to be 15,000 each. Now it's 20. So it's just overall better than before. But yeah, I think Histria is a pretty decent spot, especially if you are within this AP area just looking for a place to dump Agris. And so basically, the upgraded compass, it looks like this. This thing right here, it allows you to basically pull your party to you. And it's basically like an Uber. And then it's pretty cool. Is it really useful for you? No, it's useful for everyone else, but not you. I mean, it's still a nice thing to have. You get a title and you get a house furnishing item, and you get to say that you've gotten the Elton piece. This one took me about like 500 hours of grinding. Not so great, but we're done. And then we'll talk about the Dekia versions of these later. Akhman, even though these are both 230 AP spots, Histria is significantly better than Akhman. It's always been like that, even like 5 years ago when it came out. However, you have to grind here for the other compass part as well. And is it that much more silver? I think it's probably a few hundred more million an hour at Histria than Akhman. I don't think this is bad particularly. Like, you're going to have to be at both of these either way. But just know that you're going to make more at Histria than Akhman. Oh boy, Kratuga Ancient Ruins. About a year ago, this place was broken. It was the #1 silver spot in the game, and then they nerfed it. So, what can I say about this spot? Even after the nerf, it's just a decent spot. Like, I mean, if you went here, you would still make a decent amount of silver. It's not like OP anymore, but the one thing that makes this unique is it drops basically every artifact that you could possibly want, except for the Kabua one, but that's endgame. But I truly do think that at Kratuga, it is better to grind here for if you're looking for a specific artifact than it is to grind out another specific place. So, for example, let me see. Like, let's say you're at Thornwood, right? And you're looking for an accuracy artifact, right? You probably get one of these artifacts every 2 hours, right? But at Kratuga, you probably get like one random artifact every, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. And if you're grinding over a long period of time, chances of you getting the one you want is probably higher than you grinding for a very specific one in general. So I think on average, if you're looking for any particular artifact, going to Kratuga is probably the way to go. I think it's still a decent amount of silver. You do have to use Agris. I'm not sure how the Marnie realm competes with the non-Marnie realm anymore, but I think it's just okay. It's still worth grinding. It's just not as crazy as it used to be. Swamp Naga and Fogans. I do truly think that if you were looking for the Shard of Tearful Nights, the Fogans is probably the best one to go to. And as we talked about, Brigati Den for the yellow ones and Fogans over here for the blue ones, I don't really like this spot in general just because it didn't feel normal or natural grinding here. It's like moving from point A to B to C, but that point A to B is like a huge distance. So yeah, it's one of those things where there are other spots I just wouldn't recommend this one. Star's End. Okay, so this spot, it used to be really good back in the day. However, Black Distortion earrings are considered one of the best earrings in the game for offensive damage and AP. There are only a few places you can get these. Star's End being the primary spot. And this spot, I would say, if you get a distortion earring in your hourly grind or something, the spot feels amazing. If you don't get it, the spot feels like you just wasted an hour of your life that you'll never get back. So just keep that in mind. The silver itself, it's not that good. Here's how I would fix it if I was Pearl Abyss. Raise the drop rate of distos by a little bit, and obviously raise the trash loot price to about like 20k, which slightly more than before, but it still wouldn't be a lot, but it would just feel a little bit better to grind there, if you know what I mean. So yeah, one of those things where if you get a disto, it's good. If you don't, you're probably just gonna hate yourself, but it is what it is. Next we have Sakraya Underwater. This spot is actually very good, and the reasoning why is you get a lot of abyssal essences, which are actually really wild. For 4 mil each, you could probably grind out maybe 100 of them an hour at the spot, and then if you sell it, it's pretty amazing. Plus you get the bonus Tungrad rings, which are like 200 mil each, pretty crazy, plus a lot of other things. So I think this spot is actually really good. They made a change last year that you could actually sell these abyssal essences. Back in the day before, they had no value. You basically had to craft them into the Frenzy Elixir, and then you had to sell it. But now that you could just sell these straight up, I do truly think this spot is very good. The only bad side about Sakraya Underwater is that it's out in the middle of the ocean. Here's how I would get there if I were you and I didn't have a boat. So let's say you started at Velia. You take the Traveler's Map to Ilia Island, and then you run from the island. Let's say you start over here. You run down to like over here, right? And then you just jump into water. Whenever the node map changes, like you see how it says Heidel, whenever it changes to like Sakraya or something when you're in the ocean, you escape, and it'll take you into the Sakraya area, and then you just go underwater. Or you could just ask one of your friends or guildies to compass you there. Either one. But yeah, that's how I would do it. So yeah, Underwater Sakraya, actually very solid. I just think it's kind of out of your way to get there. Okay, what's next? Upper Gyfin in the 250 area. I think this spot is very solid. It's one of those ones where money just kind of rolls in. The only downside of the spot is you have to get a party of 5, well, like you plus 4 other people. And then depending on what happens, like does your group decide to split all the accessories, and or is it like a free-for-all? But either way, it's a pretty decent grind spot. I was always over the cap of AP whenever they changed it. Gyfin has been tweaked probably like 6 times over the past, like, I don't know, how long has this been out? 5 years now or something. And yeah, so I didn't really get too much of a chance to try it, but I do have a few hours, enough to know what I'm doing. And I've also talked to other people, and they said it was decent as well. But I just think the hardest part is getting a group together. Paddock's Island. This place is very unique. It drops the newest accessory in the game of the Ocean Haze, which is an evasion ring. It's more specific to your kind of build. So if you're an evasion player and you just want all evasion, no offense, this is what it's for. Paddock's Island is one of those things where you're out here for the rich merchant ring. In 1 hour, I made about like 500 mil before this came out. So keep in mind, this was before the Ocean Haze. I don't know how many you can get an hour here now. Maybe it's a little bit more than 500 mil an hour, but either way, it's still kind of annoying. I wouldn't really recommend it unless you're out here for the rich merchant ring piece, because Paddock's Island is out in the middle of the ocean, and getting there is kind of annoying. So here's how I would do it if I were you. 1, take a boat from here, or like just take a boat and then sail up. Or if you have a tier 10 unicorn, you can island hop, and I've personally done it. So you can island hop from over here and get there without running out of stamina. You just have to stop on each island. But yeah, that's one way to do it. It's kind of annoying, but the spot is not good itself. You're there for a purpose. Let's see. This is actually a unique spot, the Murrowwax Labyrinth in the 260 area. I do believe this actually got nerfed a couple months ago. I talked to one of my friends, and they said they kind of like changed it into a point where you can't like, if you pay attention to timers, you can do very well. But I think they like stealth nerfed this spot. That's what I've been told. But this one is one of those spots where I don't really know how to describe it, except I have a video of it. So basically, it's a group spot, but it's also solo. So think of like a pizza, right? But there's 5 slices of pizza in a circle. That's really weird, but everyone gets their own like room or like 1 slice of pizza. And then every 15 minutes or so, like the room changes, and then so everyone goes into a burrow. Like think of everyone going clockwise into another room. Now you repeat that for a certain amount of time, and then the boss summons. And so when everyone in their own room groups up together, you don't even have to group. You just go into the center room, and then you fight the boss. And then everyone gets their own loot, so it's all good. You can solo it. I've soloed it before. I have a video, and I'll leave it in the description if you want to watch it. But I think it's a unique grind spot. I just think that I don't have enough experience in here to know how much you can make, but it's a unique one where you can actually get to flame and embers. But speaking of embers, Jade Starlight Forest. If you are looking for your Labresca helm and you're looking to get yours, this is the spot you're going to be grinding Jade Starlight Forest for your embers and the flame. The Witch's token as well does the Arethia's Limbo, which is this thingy. It has an easy and hard mode. I have a video of that too. But yeah, just generally, if you're going for Labresca, grinding it out yourself, this is the place you want to grind. And yeah, it's pretty decent. Like, I don't think it's a lot of silver, but it's like, I don't know, probably around like 600 to 800 mil an hour at the 260, which is that good? I don't know. Depends on how well or how fast you clear, but you're gonna have to be here if you can't buy this yourself. Next, we have the Bloody Monastery in Elvia. Now, I actually like this spot because it's unique. So, first of all, Revived Lunar Necklaces, those tanked in price since the last video. These used to be like 300 mil each, and now I think they're half. So that's not good. However, this spot gives a decent amount of the yellow shards, plus it also gives a Crimson Bell. And these Crimson Bells just drop when you're grinding naturally. So you can get probably like, I don't know, between like, I don't know, depending on your RNG, like 1 to like maybe 10 of them an hour. And so basically it's when you use the bell, you get a wave of enemies coming towards you. And then you basically just Dynasty Warriors them out. And then you get more loot. So it's kind of fun. I have videos of it if you want to watch it. I don't think it's really that exciting, but it's like, it's cool the first time you do it. And then sometimes you can get more accessories, more trash loot. So this spot for silver is pretty decent for a 260 area. And you get a lot of yellow shards too. It's not as much as Brigati Den that we talked about earlier, but it's still pretty decent. And if you want yellows, I would recommend this one. Elvia or Camp in the 260 area. I think they actually changed this number. I thought this place used to be a 280 spot, and then they lowered it to 260, which is fine because you could have grinded at this spot in 260 back in the day as well. So admittedly, I have a lot of hours here, so I got a lot of red shards. Yeah, like 700, and keep in mind I also made a lot of them, so I've had over 1,000 of these red shards from grinding. And so I would say Elvia Orcs is probably in my top 5 of most grinded spots in this game. And yeah, this spot, there's not really too much in terms of RNG drops. Like, you know how some spots drop accessories where you make a lot of silver and stuff, right? This one just straight up gives silver by trash loot. So you're not really getting the thrill of, oh, I got a rare drop this hour. You're just getting kind of consistent ones, whether you think that's good or not. I think this is a very good spot just because you just, whether you have a bad day or not, you're probably going to get the same old 700 to 700 plus million silver an hour every hour. So yeah, admittedly, I think this is a very good spot, especially in the 260 area. Probably one of the higher end areas that you can go for silver in this game. Well, not this game, but at this AP level, I should say. Abandoned Monastery. I actually don't have a lot of experience in here. I think this is one of the few places you could get a Dawn Earring, and if you're going for Dawn Earrings, this is like one of the few spots you get them. So next we have Primal Giants. I think the Dekia one is better than Elvia. Or is there Giants one? Is it like a, never mind, a Cyclops. I'm confusing it. Never mind. Don't mind me. Let's see. So we're getting into the super endgame area where everything is like 280 plus. So Olin's Valley is a group spot. You're there for mostly the rich merchant ring. I think in a good group and an optimized one, like assuming you have a striker, a shy, and some other big damage class, you could probably be making like 1 billion silver an hour. The one thing is that you have to find a group to grind with, and 2, this AP DP thing is kind of irrelevant because, like, obviously more is better, but it's more about knowing the mechanics of the spot more than anything. And even if you are like 401 DP and you get hit by a slam, you could probably still die to that in like one shot. So it's kind of knowing how to read the indicators and mechanics of this. And overall, it's a good spot. It's just you have to be alert when you're grinding here. Underground Gyfin. This spot has been changed like 4 times, kind of like the upper one as well. So Gyfin is the #1 spot for XP in this game. You can go from, I don't know, depending if you get Leech, you can go all the way to 66 here, and even further beyond here as well. So, yeah. This spot is currently in a good spot in terms of silver. I personally think that, like, it's really easy to understand the mechanics, but you still have to be a little bit alert grinding here. Because some of the elite enemies, like the purple, blue, red ones, if you're not paying attention, they could just chunk your health. So it's a very good silver spot. It's a very good XP. Admittedly, it's probably the #1 XP spot in the game. Decent silver. And yeah, it's just an overall very chill spot. But just be alert of the bosses or the elites. And then you get a bunch of accessories. So the drop rate for those is pretty high. So now we're getting into the 300 AP area. We talked about Akhman and Histria before. What's different is the Dekia realm. And so with Dekia, you basically use the lantern and it buffs the enemies. And you won't ever accidentally get yourself into a Dekia version because they're in specific spots. Plus, you have to activate a lantern. So don't be afraid to just go into certain areas because chances are there's no shot that you'll find it accidentally and then die. So recently with the last patch, in Histria, the Dekia version that is, they increased the drop rate for Deboreka earrings, which is a very endgame item. And it used to be like 1 every 7 hours, so now it has a double drop rate. So in theory, it's like 1 every 3 to 4 hours. I haven't tested it enough to actually know that, but according to the patch notes, it got buffed. So I have a video I think I made about like 1 billion silver in 1 hour here. It's not really great for a 300 spot, but you're grinding here for like the Elton compass piece or for Deboreka earrings. So that's what it is. Akhman is a lot better than Histria in terms of the earring drop rate, which is funny because before when we were talking about the regular spots, I mentioned how Histria was better than Akhman, but in the Dekia version, Akhman is probably better for earring drop rates. And then everything else is like whatever. So there's that. I personally don't think you really need to be 300 AP to do this properly. Like, it really does feel easy, and then you just fight the shielded enemy and it gives you a buff, and then you can basically do more damage faster, which I think is good. So I think that you can get away with a little bit less, but either way, when you're full buffed and everything, it should be fine. Elvia Hex. I remember grinding here back in the day. This was before Land of the Morning Light came out. And you had to do the Crystallized Despairs. You would get probably about like 10 to 15 of these an hour. However, these used to be like 60 mil an hour, or like 60 mil each. So you're just making like a bill off of these in general, plus all the trash loot and everything. So yeah, I used to be making like $1.5 billion an hour here, and then these kind of tanked. So not anymore, I'm not. So either way, I think they actually increased the drop rate for Disto earrings here from like the bosses, like the Gigagord and the Cyclops and Ogre, which I think is a good thing. But just keep in mind that if you're grinding here, you're basically doing this to get the upgrade for your Bell's Heart, which is the Blessed Soul thingy. And like the silver itself, you're probably going to be making, I don't know, between 600 to 1 billion silver. But for like a 300 AP spot, I think you can do better. It's not bad. It's just not as good as it used to be. Cryptic Resting Thoughts into 300 AP. I had to do a lot of time here, and I still have to do a lot of time here, simply because you have to go for the Rich Merchant Ring here and the Deboreka belts, which are endgame accessories. And I got very lucky. I was able to get my pen earlier than I should have. But yeah, if you're going to go for that, I think the Debo belt drop rate is like 1 every 1 or 2 hours. And it doesn't feel that bad. It's just grinding in a dark cave for like hours. You know how... I don't know if you guys can relate, but when I grind in areas, I like the environmental scenery for things. Like Kama Sylvia is all green and nature and colorful. It actually makes me like happier to grind there than like in a dark cave like Histria and Cryptic Resting Thoughts all the time, where it's like gloomy and disgusting. So yeah, I don't really like grinding this spot, but in terms of silver, it's pretty decent actually. It also drops the Rich Merchant Ring. I also have to be here for the extra 2 titles that I have to get. Ash Forest. This place sucks. It's not good for XP. The Debo rate drop sucks as well. And I am so glad I'm done with my necklace that I never want to be here again. Also, the Dekia Ash Forest is really hard. It doesn't matter if you're geared. You get CC'd, it's over. Admittedly, I don't really know how to pronounce this. We just call it the Highlands. It's in the Ulakita area. I think right now, this spot is probably in the top 5 for silver an hour. Plus, you get the embers and the flames and the Kabua's artifacts. These are kind of going down in price, by the way, as we speak. And if you need the Kabua's artifacts, these are best in slot for PvEers. So, yeah, I think with Agris, I can consistently make like $1.5 billion an hour here. Assuming I don't get like the super rare treasure items like the flame or the Kabua's artifact. But you get a lot of fragments and embers here to the point where it's a very good spot. The mechanics aren't too difficult, and I think if you play a better class than Dark Knight, which is a lot of them, you could probably make a consistent like 1.7 billion an hour here, assuming you are meeting entry level requirements. Dark Seeker, they changed this spot a couple of times, and I got my 100 embers. You can watch that video where I basically grinded out about 60 hours the first week it came out, or first 2 weeks, I should say. And then we got the boots, and then you could watch my journey enhancing this one. It took me like 20 something attempts to get from try to tet alone. So that was not pretty. I spent a lot of silver on that one. And then they also changed the spot in terms of like having different mechanics. And so I'm not really sure if it's good or not anymore. However, if you're looking for the embers and Kabua's fragments and artifacts, I do truly think the Highlands is significantly better than Darkseekers at the moment. City of the Dead. This spot is like $1 billion an hour. You go for the telescope piece, which is this thingy. And basically what this allows you to do is it allows you to teleport to a guildie or party member, no matter where they're at. So it's like a reverse compass, you know, like the compass allows you to pull people to you. You could teleport yourself to someone else. And it's more specific than the archaeologist map. So yeah, I think it's worth grinding out. It's just kind of an end game thing that you go for. But with that said, you're here for the essence of the devourings, and obviously the compass. I think I have a screenshot. I saved up about like, I think 1 million trash loot, maybe more, going for the 2 pieces, the treasure items. So yeah, that took me about 130 hours here, probably. Didn't feel good. Dekia Tunkuda, which is Turos. I think this is actually a very good solid spot as well. I think people are making like at least 1.5 billion an hour here. Admittedly, I only have 1 or 2 hours grinding in the Dekia version, but according to Garmoth, it is a very solid spot. So maybe I'll go back and try it again in the future. So yeah, if you're going for your Fallen God and you need the Flame, Dekia is not to play, I don't think. The regular one is, but the drop rate for embers in Dekia is a lot higher. So maybe these actually get sold more often just because this is a higher end grind spot. Let me actually go look this up. Flame. Oh yeah, you can just buy them. Never mind, you don't even have to grind it. Just go buy these because they sit on the market now. Very cool. Okay, so where were we? Dekia Olins. It's kind of scary, actually. Even people who are very geared, if you aren't paying attention and get hit by the slam, you will probably die. So it's also still a party group. You're here for earrings. I think Dekia Olins has the highest drop rate for earrings of like Dekia Histria and Akhman, and Olins are the 3 places that drop it, right? I think Olins has the highest drop rate. Probably making over $1 billion an hour here. You should be, because this one is mega scary. Dekia Thornwood. This is arguably number 1 in terms of grind spots. I can consistently make about 1.5 billion an hour here. Assuming I only get like average RNG of like 1 or 2 ominous rings. And so, yeah, other than that, it's like a bill an hour. You get about 160 Capra stones, or like that plus dust, into total of about 160. So I think this is a very solid area. It's a video I have on the channel as well. You know what? I'll just leave a link in the description to like my grind videos playlist. So if you want to watch something in particular, you just find it there. It's in the playlist, all organized. Dekia Ash Forest. This place is scary. Even at like super geared levels, everything is out to get you. I've died here in Dekia when it first released, and even, you know, 10 gear score ago when I was 740. It's scary. Drop rate still sucks. Still not good XP. I feel bad for everyone who has to grind these out. I did my time and we are out. But if you're going for Deboreka necklaces, just grind a regular one. Just trust me on that. You won't have to sweat as bad. And the spot, like, you know, Dekia Ash, I feel, is truly overtuned for most classes. Dekia Cyclops. This is another place that drops the Dawn Earrings. I actually don't have too much time grinding here because I just never really had any interest in the slower spots in this game. But I heard it's pretty decent. Like maybe $1.5 billion an hour from what I've heard. I haven't tried it, admittedly, but heard it's decent. And the next 2 things we want to talk about are Quint Hill. So I don't really like the spots that are slow. You know how this game is like a pretty fast-paced game in general, right? So there are spots where you just basically fight it like you would fight a boss, and then each pack takes like 30 seconds or something. That's never really something I enjoyed doing, but yeah, these are pretty decent. And the final spot that I want to talk about is the 320 area, Tungrad Ruins. Yeah, I had to grind here for this piece as well, and it was a consistent 1 bill an hour. And you get more depending on how many essences of devouring you get, and these are used for the fail stack booster. So I think if you're grinding Tungrad, you're either here for the telescope piece or the fail stacks. It also, I think this is admittedly the #1 spot for Spectre's Energy at high end, whereas Thornwood is the mid game Spectre's Energy spot. So make sure to do the daily. You get 45 Capris as well in an hour. But overall, this has been all the spots for silver, in my opinion. And this is just everything we talked about. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask or join the Discord. I have a lot of guides in there as well. And with that said, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you're new to your channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. I would love to see you come back. I've been playing this game for 8 years now. And back in the day, I didn't have any guides to help me. I just kind of had to grind all these spots out myself and figure it out. So hopefully I could share my information and knowledge of this game with you guys. And hopefully, whether you're a beginner, a returning player, or someone who is just looking to get better at this game, hopefully my videos can help you. If you are the kind of person who doesn't like to talk to anyone, I have a channel in my Discord where I have like guides and tips. And I keep all my updated guide videos there. So you don't even have to talk to anyone. You could, channel is open. You guys can find a video you want. You never have to talk to anyone and just do your own thing. So yeah, that's in my Discord. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer questions on both YouTube comments and all my social media. Discord is probably the best place to reach me though. But yeah, with that said, I'll see you guys tomorrow for more videos. I hope you all have a fantastic day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.